My name is Emily Parker, and I live in Portland, Oregon. For the last 7 years, my life has been the same: quiet mornings, long workdays, and even longer nights. I teach art at a local community center. My students are mostly kids, full of energy and color, while my own world had become shades of gray. When my husband Daniel left 2 years ago, he didn't shout, fight, or even argue. He just stopped talking. Silence replaced every word we used to share. Then one morning, he packed his things, said, "I need to find myself," and walked out. Since that day, I haven't been angry, not really. Just invisible. Like I'd turned into the kind of person people pass by without noticing. A few weeks ago, the community center announced an upcoming art exhibition, a fundraiser to support local artists. My students were excited, but deep down, I didn't want to go. I had stopped painting for myself years ago. My brushes sat untouched, and my reflection in the mirror looked tired, older, and unfamiliar. But then something small happened that changed everything. That morning, I was buying coffee before class when a young woman behind the counter smiled at me and said, "I love your scarf. You look so elegant today." It wasn't much, but it was the first compliment I'd received in years. For a moment, it felt like sunlight broke through the clouds. That night, I stood in front of my mirror, holding my old paintbrush. I decided to paint again, not for anyone else, but for me. My hands trembled at first, but when the colors began to fill the canvas, something inside me woke up. I stayed up all night painting, my heart racing like it hadn't in years. The next morning, I brought the painting to the center. My friend Sarah, another teacher there, saw it and froze. "Emily, this is incredible," she said. "You have to submit this for the exhibition." I hesitated. "It's not good enough. It's just me trying again." "Exactly," she said, smiling. "That's what art is." The exhibition night arrived. I wore a simple blue dress, nothing special, but it felt right. I curled my hair, put on a little lipstick, and for the first time in a long time, looked at myself in the mirror without flinching. When I walked into the gallery, I saw people gathered around the paintings, laughing, discussing, sipping the drinks. I wasn't expecting anyone to notice mine. But they did, and that's when I saw Michael again. Michael Turner had been my neighbor years ago, a kind man, quiet, always carrying a camera. He'd moved away after his wife passed. I hadn't seen him since. He recognized me first. "Emily," he said softly. I turned, surprised. "Michael. Wow, it's been years." He smiled. "Your painting, it's beautiful. I knew you painted, but this feels alive." His words made my chest tighten. No one had looked at my art like that since Daniel. We talked for a while. About life, about losing people, about finding strength again. He told me he now worked as a freelance photographer, traveling but always coming back to Portland for the quiet. There was something comforting about him, no rush, no pressure. Just presence. Over the next few weeks, Michael started visiting the center. Sometimes he'd photograph the art classes or help kids frame their paintings. I noticed the way he spoke, gentle, respectful, sincere. It wasn't about attention, it was about care. One afternoon, as we cleaned up the art supplies, he asked, "Do you ever paint for yourself anymore?" I shrugged. "I'm trying to, but it's hard to start over when you feel like you already had your chance." He smiled. "Starting over doesn't erase what came before, it just adds new colors." Something about that stayed with me. A few days later, I invited him to the park to take photos for a mural project. The sky was golden, and autumn leaves painted the ground. I laughed more that day than I had in years. When we were about to leave, Michael turned to me and said, "You know, you should let people see you the way you really are, Emily. You're stronger than you think." I didn't know what to say. My throat felt tight. For so long, I'd been hiding behind old memories and quiet regrets. He smiled, took one last photo of me standing under the golden trees, and said, "Don't lose that light." That was the last time I saw him. No calls, no messages. He didn't show up at the center again. I found out later that he had moved to another city for work. He hadn't even said goodbye. At first, I was hurt, angry, even. Why come back into my life just to leave again? But one evening, I received an envelope at the art center. Inside was a printed photograph, the one he took of me in the park. On the back, he had written, "Greater than, you wanted to feel beautiful again. You already were, M." I stood there, tears streaming down my face. It wasn't about love or romance. It was about rediscovery, about remembering that beauty doesn't come from someone's approval, it comes from being alive, from trying again. Months passed. I painted more. I laughed more. My small apartment turned into a studio filled with canvases and color. The woman who once felt invisible had learned to see herself again. And every time I picked up my brush, I whispered a quiet thank you to the stranger who reminded me of something I'd forgotten. That sometimes, the people who walk away still leave behind the light you need to find yourself again.